These next few slides are going to give us an overview of some of the high-level key themes of systems and systems thinking. This initial image on this first slide, I think, is powerful because it demonstrates the complexity of systems and all of the web of connectivity that is encompassed within it. And we can see the human being involved in that. And I think that's a great visual as you're thinking about the big picture view of systems and what it means. So let's talk a little bit. A system, as Kim mentioned, and you read it in his article, is a group of any interacting, interrelated, or interdependent parts that form a complex and unified whole and that has a specific purpose. And there's three images here of some specific examples that are very tangible to understand. So the first one is representative of a family system, a community system, and you can see yourself, the individual, in the center of that system. And then you can think about how you then have an immediate family. You then, after that circle, have an extended family. You then have a community outside of that. You then have a country that you live in. You then have a world. All of that to say, you can start to get the picture of how your system keeps growing from your immediate nucleus system, and it becomes interconnected and interdependent. The second image is that of the human body, and the human system is probably something that you studied back in biology when you were in high school, and that's another great image to understand how our human body is so interconnected and interdependent of each other. If something is not working, it affects the whole system of the whole body. And then the third image there is the solar system. And again, the same type of concept is to think about how all of those systems are working together to create the galaxies that are part of our world. And so all that to say, it can be, and it is extremely complex when you start to get into the minutia of it. But it's important to understand a system first so that we can then understand what it means to be a systems thinker and how this applies in an organizational setting. And so it's important to know that an organization is a complex social system. And so what we're looking at when we understand that organizations are very interdependent, and especially with today's globalization, we're seeing that organizations are not only systems within themselves, but they're systems within the larger global sphere. And so things can get really complex. So what does it mean when we're trying to be a systems thinker or develop a systems thinking mindset within an organization, specifically when we're talking about how to address organizational change? So a systems thinker is defined as someone who can see beyond what appears to be isolated and independent incidents to recognize deeper patterns. In essence, systems thinkers know how to take a balcony perspective. They know how to step above the entire organizational social system and look at it from a different point of view. And they're able then from that perspective to see different places where the system can be intervened and hopefully a change can be made. The next slide is going to show us an image of this. And so let me walk you through this. The iceberg is an excellent image. It's used in a lot of academic literature about how to understand systems and the decisions that we make in organizations. So the iceberg is an example of what happens in an organization, and often how problems get solved is by an event that occurs, and that's the tip of the iceberg. That's usually the things that are seen above the water, so to speak, and oftentimes organizations do what's called a Band-Aid effect. They put a Band-Aid over the event, but they don't take the time to look beneath the surface and see what's really going on. Let me give a specific, tangible example to this, something that's simple but that we can all understand within an organizational setting. Let's say that an event occurred that a under 30 high potential individual resigned from the organization and took another job. That's an event that happened. Now, in your mind, you might give a sigh, you might be exasperated, you might think, what just happened? Why are under 30 high potential individuals leaving our organization? Maybe this has happened more than once. Well, you start to dig beneath the surface and not just look at that one isolated event, but you then go one step below and you look at the patterns of behavior. So what are the trends that have been happening over time? You pull up some data, some evidence, and you see that you have had 30 high potential individuals under the age of 30 who have left the organization for other jobs within the last 6 months. Okay, that's something to pay attention to. That is a pattern of behavior that needs to be recognized. But we don't want to stop there. We want to go even deeper. And we take a look at what are the systems and structures that are in place that might be causing high potential individuals under the age of 30 to leave our organization. Why are we losing all of our young, talented people? Well, perhaps there is a system in place in this organization that we're talking about where every job description for a management level or above requires 5 to 10 years of experience. Perhaps it also requires a certain level of higher education that most people under 30 have not yet obtained. So that could be a system issue and a structure issue that needs to be addressed. Then we take it a step further, and this is where we really want to get to as a systems thinker, is these mental models. And these mental models, in brief, are assumptions. They're deeply held attitudes or beliefs that people hold inside of them as to way things should be. And what's interesting is that mental models, people hold very different mental models about things, and a lot of times they're subconscious. People don't even realize that they hold them. And there's a lot of research out there on mental models if that's something that you're interested in researching deeper. It's a fascinating concept. But in this scenario that I'm playing out for you, perhaps a deeply held mental model in this situation is that I had to put my time in to get where I'm at. So you have to work at this organization for at least 5 years before you can get promoted. And that's a deeply held mental model that is then playing into the systems and structures and the way we design job descriptions. And then it's allowing us to see these patterns of behavior of these under 30-year-old high potentials leaving the organization, which then translate back to the event of having another individual leave. So hopefully that gives you a brief example of what we're trying to do as a systems thinker. We're trying to go beneath the surface to really uncover what's going on in the organization and not just solve a problem. So in brief, what is the goal of a systems thinker? Again, a systems thinker, as I mentioned earlier, takes a balcony perspective. They're able to take a different view, a high-level view, and look at the entire picture so that they can see exactly where the intervention should take place or where the change needs to be made. A systems thinker is also really good at revealing the group's unconscious way of solving problems. And that's where that iceberg model comes into place. A good systems thinker can really get down and drive down into understanding those patterns of behavior, the systems and structures in an organization that are serving as barriers, and then uncovering those deeply held mental models that people have in the organization about why things are the way they are. Another goal of a systems thinker is to illustrate patterns, highlight gaps, and facilitate options. We call these scenarios. Another term in the academic literature is called equifinality. Kind of a fun word, but in essence what it means is that there are multiple plausible solutions to a lot of our complex challenges. I think oftentimes in organizations we automatically say A plus B equals C. Well, maybe not. Maybe there's another way to get to C. Maybe if we went through the started at the back of the alphabet and went all the way through, we could still land at C. And that's just one example of how we can then provide multiple options. Scenarios are a way that we can help organizations think through, what would it look like if we went this route? What would it mean to try this out? And a good systems thinker is able to present those scenarios, present those options, present multiple plausible solutions that then can affect the change. And I think the goal of systems thinkers too is also to create a non-threatening approach to problem solving and change. And by illuminating what's going on in the organization in a non-defensive way, it allows people to really see what the barriers are that are causing these problems, in our example that we use, causing high potential under 30-year-olds to leave the organization, and it doesn't feel defensive. And we're able to then together co-create a solution that's going to help the organization to flourish and to move forward.